Sobrin and Lisa Do Wine and Crime is sponsored by OD Collective. Oriental Drift is a high-quality boutique for men and women that offer a large range of clothing for all ages and sizes, from shirts, jeans, joggers to footwear and sunglasses. As brand ambassadors for OD Collective, Bryn and I are proud to offer you, the listeners, a discount code on your entire OD order. Upon checkout, use the code MS Lisa Appleton or Bryn CJ Hammond to receive 10% money off. Check out their latest clothing by visiting www.orientaldrift.com today.
Welcome to yet another episode of So Bryn and Lisa Do Wine and Crime. In today's show we have an all-new investigation tentatively titled The Death of Alonzo Brooks. This case really does need the spotlight pointing on it again to bring it back to the public's attention. All media is good media in these situations.
I can't agree more. Even if we just bring it to a few people's attention, word of mouth is the key. So share and share alike. Our So Conspiracy of the week is also a bulldozer of a topic. If you thought our Lady Gaga conspiracy of last week was mind-boggling, well, our Katy Perry one will blow your mind.
Then to wrap the show up, we will be getting out our bathing costumes, slapping on the sun cream, and heading down to Myrtle Beach to re-evaluate the evidence associated with the disappearance of Brittany Drexel.
Just to let all our listeners know, So Bryn and Lisa Do Wine and Crime is a weekly podcast that airs Wednesday on Podbean at 10 p.m. GMT +1, 5 p.m. EDT and 2 p.m. PDT. You can also follow us on Twitter at So Bryn and Lisa and Instagram at So Bryn and Lisa. I want to give a very, very quick shout out to Jessica May 1981 and Caitlin Heron for your suggestions and comments on our official Instagram. A big thank you.
Now on to our conspiracy of the week. On the night of Christmas 1996, child beauty pageant winner JonBenét Ramsey was killed in her family home in Colorado. She was only 6 years old. A lengthy ransom note was found first, and then her father found her dead in the basement 8 hours later after they had reported her missing. She had a broken skull and had been strangled. Her death is officially classified as a homicide, and while both her parents were suspects, the case still remains unsolved.
Conspiracy theorists have a different theory. Has everyone had a large glass of red for this? Conspiracy theorists believe and have alleged that JonBenét Ramsey was not killed that night. Instead, she was kidnapped. Her parents staged her death and she later resurfaced in 2008 as Katy Perry with the hit song I Kissed a Girl.
Their evidence includes the resemblance of Katy Perry to JonBenét Ramsey, as well as the resemblance of both their sets of parents. One YouTuber theorist went to great lengths to prove that the similarity of their eyebrows must mean that they're in fact the same person, while another YouTuber points out one of the lines in Katy Perry's memoir.
Katy Perry has a memoir? I need more wine.
Get this though, Lisa. Allegedly, Katy wrote in her memoir, with reference to writing songs at an early age, "Not that I was one of those stage kids. There was no JonBenét Ramsey inside of me waiting to burst out." Well, according to YouTubers, that throwaway line, which if it had come out of Trisha Paytas' mouth would have been billed as just her trolling, immediately confirmed who she was. One conspiracy theorist stated, "The Illuminati always puts out clues hidden in plain sight, and this, my dear listeners, was how the conspiracy began."
The YouTube video that gave legs to the conspiracy was entitled JonBenét Ramsey is Singing Katy Perry and was posted on December 2014. It has since been taken down by YouTube, but the theory continues to gain traction, with several other YouTubers mentioning the video as evidence. The story finally exploded into orbit when entertainment news sites began to cover it in February 2016, and Katy Perry even referenced it at the VMAs in 2017, where she was asked to blink twice if indeed the story was true. With Katy Perry finally succumbing to the backlash of joking about the deceased child, the worst conspiracy theory in history still remains a talking point within circles. But more importantly, what do you, the listeners, really think? Would the Illuminati really take the time and their resources to fake the death of a child pageant winner and turn her into a pop star only to hint about it in her memoir?
Or does the theory just come across as the first thing the original conspiracy theorist could think of? While discussing this conspiracy, a big shout out to Joe Copsick on Twitter for your tweet involving Ghislaine Maxwell.
We won't be covering it today, but to the listeners not following us on Twitter, he has sent us links to a very similar conspiracy in which Maxwell is in fact JonBenét Ramsey. These aren't our thoughts and opinions, we are just reporting the news.
Now to the main show, the death of Alonzo Brooks. Alonzo Brooks was 23 years old at the time of his death. He was born on May the 19th, 1980 to Billy Brooks Sr. and Maria Ramirez. A native of Topeka, Kansas, Brooks was of African American and Mexican descent.
At the time of his disappearance, Brooks was one of only 3 black men at a party in Racine, Kansas, at around 100 guests according to the FBI. On April the 3rd, 2004, Brooks rode to the party with 3 friends, Justin Sprague, Daniel Fune and Tyler Brugard. However, his friends left the event before him due to a perceived misunderstanding on how he would be returning home to Gardner, leaving Brooks without a ride and stranded 50 miles south of his hometown.
During the party, it was alleged that racial slurs were uttered towards Brooks that went on to ignite tension between Brooks and the other attendees. The following day, after Alonzo had failed to come home, his family travelled to Racine to search for their son. And eventually, after being met by a brick wall, the family contacted local authorities for their assistance, and they began to help searching for Brooks.
After a lengthy investigation and a search which turned up no leads for the Link County Police Department, they turned the case over to the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. Both the KBI and FBI were also unsuccessful in locating Brooks, and the case remained cold. On May 1st, 2004, Brooks's body was found on the banks of the Middle Creek, adjacent to the house where he was last seen a month earlier. Dr. Eric Mitchell, a forensic pathologist, said that Brooks hadn't suffered any penetrating injuries or fractures. Brooks also did not have any broken bones, any signs of blunt force trauma or injury, nor any of the biological signs of drowning in his lungs. Consequently, the pathologist could not determine a cause of death.
Again, like many unsolved cases, like the ones Sobrin and Lisa Do Wine and Crime have covered previously, including the death of Kanika Jenkins, numerous theories have been conjured up as to how Brooks died, and more often than not, these theories can never be confirmed or denied.
One theory is that during the party, Brooks and a white female had been seen flirting, which led to the racial slurs. Danny Fune, who went to the party with Brooks, said, "There were some people at the party who, had some problems with people's skin colour." Rodney English, another friend of Alonzo, also recalls finding Brooks's hat and one of his boots after the disappearance and realised immediately that something wasn't quite right.
English also stated that he doesn't understand why Justin, Daniel and Tyler, who went with Alonzo to the party, would have abandoned him, especially when racial slurs were being directed towards their friend earlier in the night. Daniel discredits this comment by stating that Brooks was determined to have a good time despite the racial slurs, and this is why, by the time all his friends exited the party, the problem had blown over.
Now this brings us right up to the latest development in the case. The FBI have exhumed Brooks's body from his grave in Topeka. This was done on Tuesday, July the 21st, 2020. The FBI have declined to comment further on the case, although they did confirm that the exhumation was part of the ongoing investigation into Brooks's death.
The FBI officially reopened Brooks's case on June the 11th, 2020. As of now, there haven't been any major developments in the case, but a $100,000 reward has been offered, and the US Attorney, Stephen McAllister, stated that it defies reason to believe that Alonzo's death was a suicide, or that he somehow accidentally tumbled into a relatively shallow creek in Lynn County, leaving behind his boots and hat, all with no witnesses whatsoever.
What a case this is, and truly tragic.
And to tonight's So Missing.
Picture this, it's spring break. Music is playing, drink and drugs are being used and abused, while underage partying is happening from South Downs South Ocean Boulevard right to the Blue Water Resort in Myrtle Beach. Brittany Drexel of Chile, New York, was just 17 years old when she left the Bar Harbor Hotel, where she had been staying with friends, without her mother's knowledge or permission.
It was approximately 8 p.m. when she walked along the beachfront to South Downs South Ocean Boulevard to visit a long-time friend who was staying there. Security cameras at the Blue Water Resort showed her arriving, wearing a black and white tank top, flip-flops and shorts, carrying a beige purse, and then leaving for the 1.5 miles walk back to the Bar Harbor Hotel around 8:45. During the walk, Drexel was texting her boyfriend, John Greco. At around 9:15, her text suddenly stopped, and Greco began calling her friends at Myrtle Beach to see if they knew where she was or what had happened.
When those efforts failed, he called Brittany's mother, Dawn Drexel, who was furious to find out that her daughter had lied to her and gone to spring break when she had already told her daughter she couldn't go. Dawn then made the daunting call to her estranged husband and then the Rochester police, hoping that they could establish communications with their counterparts in South Carolina. During this time, all calls and texts to Brittany's phone went unanswered.
The Myrtle Beach police quickly took action and began looking for Drexel the following morning. They located the security camera footage from the Blue Water Resort almost immediately without complications, and found the friends whom Drexel had visited last, one of whom was Peter Brozovitz, a 20-year-old nightclub promoter who had apparently met Drexel at a local nightclub the night before. After police interviewed Brozovitz and the men with whom he was sharing his hotel room, they said that no one had been ruled in or out, adding that they did not have any persons of interest. Police searched Drexel's hotel room, finding all of the clothes she had packed, but not her purse or cell phone. The phone's network pings were tracked along a path leading 50 to 60 miles south of Myrtle Beach, in an area along US Route 17, near the Georgetown-Charleston County line. The pings had stopped abruptly early on the morning of April the 26th.
And much like in our Kanika Jenkins episode 3, which covered the organ theft from Ryan Singleton, the area was known as a place that bodies were often disposed of. This led to officers searching an apartment in Georgetown County in 2011 But again, that effort did not yield any information that helped identify a suspect or where Drexel was.
In June 2016, the biggest break in the case came when the FBI, which had also been involved in the case, announced at a news conference that they believed Drexel had been killed shortly after her disappearance and fed to local wildlife. She had been abducted from Myrtle Beach to somewhere in the vicinity of Georgetown, near where the cell phone pings had ended, and killed there. Timothy Taylor, who had been arrested on a federal indictment stemming from a 2011 robbery of a McDonald's restaurant, was later identified as a person of interest, and after pressure by authorities, he eventually agreed to take a lie detector test, which he failed.
And as our listeners already know, without a body, can there truly be a case? And as they also know, lie detector tests are not ironclad evidence.